Hello everybody and welcome back to another tutorial video. Now in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how to install OPENSTEP 4.2, which is a descendant of the NeXT operating system inside of VirtualBox here. Now NeXT and OPENSTEP, as I'm sure most of you guys watching this video probably know, was the operating system that was developed at NeXT, which was the company that Steve Jobs founded when he left Apple in the mid-80s, the mid to late 80s. So what I'm going to be doing today is just kind of showing you guys how to install this OS in a VM to go ahead and check it out, do whatever it is that you want to do with it. And let's just get started with it. So I'm going to have all of the files you're going to need down below in the video description. And the first one is obviously going to be to the virtualbox.org website, which is where you'll go ahead and actually download VirtualBox here. And the second one is going to be to a zip file that I have created with all of the different disk images and device drivers and all the stuff that you will need to install OPENSTEP successfully. So once you have VirtualBox downloaded and installed, all you have to do is just go ahead and open it up and click on this new icon right over here to go ahead and create a new virtual machine. Now you probably saw that I do have a VM with OPENSTEP 4.2 already installed on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and call this one OPENSTEP Video. And for the OS type, all you have to do is go ahead and click on the drop down menu and change this to Other. And for the version, you want to go ahead and do the same thing. So change this from DOS and go ahead down and change it to Other Unknown. And you want to make sure that you don't choose the 64-bit version, as this is not a 64-bit OS. So just go ahead and choose the Other Unknown. And for the memory, you could probably leave it at 64 megs and it would work fine. But on my other VM, I have this set to 128 megabytes, which you could say is a little bit overkill for this time period, but I have it in that VM and it works fine. So that's just what we're going to be using. And go ahead and for the hard disk right here, click on Create a Virtual Hard Disk Now, and just click on the Create button. And now what it's going to do is come up with the virtual hard disk wizard. So you can give this a name and a file location. And for the file size, leaving it at 2 gigs is going to work fine as well. And for the hard disk file type, just go ahead and leave it as VDI and leave it as dynamically allocated. So basically all of these settings here you really don't have to touch. So go ahead and just click on Create. And that's pretty much it. You have just created your new virtual machine. Now before we go ahead and start it up, there are going to be some settings that we have to modify. So go ahead and click on the Settings tab over here. And it's going to come up with the Settings panel. So the main thing that you want to focus on here is the storage tab. So go ahead and just click on that, and it's going to go ahead and come up with all of your different storage drives. So this is where you're actually going to be mounting the CD-ROM and the floppy drive and all of that stuff. So the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and click on the empty virtual disk drive right here, and go ahead and click on that. To the very far right, there's this little image of a CD right here. So go ahead and click on that. Go ahead and click on Choose Virtual Optical Disk File. And make sure that you have that archive that you downloaded down below in the video description extracted, by the way. So you want to make sure you have all the files out of the archive. And so the first thing that you want to do is just choose the OPENSTEP 4.2 Intel user ISO right here. So have that selected and click on Open. And so now you have mounted your virtual disk file. So the second thing that you want to do is create a floppy controller. So to do that, go ahead and click on this third button down here, and it'll come up with this menu. So go ahead and choose Add a Floppy Controller, and then go up here to this image right here. So basically what we did is we just added the floppy controller but not an actual drive. So go ahead and click on this to add a floppy drive, and it will come up with this question asking you, to mount a disk. So we're going to go ahead and click on Choose Disk and choose the 4.2 install disk. So go ahead and click that and click on Open. And that is pretty much it. We have set up the storage options all to the way that they are supposed to be. So go ahead and click on OK to close out of this window. It'll go ahead and save its settings. And now what you want to do is click on the Start button up here to start the VM. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and it will go ahead and start up. So go ahead and click in the virtual machine window to actually capture your mouse, and when it comes up with this screen, just press Enter to go ahead and speed up the booting process. And now it's going to ask you to select your language. So I'm sure most of you watching this video, if you can understand me at least, you probably speak English, so go ahead with option 1, but you've got 6 different language options if you want to go ahead and set this up in a different language. So I'm just going to go ahead and press 1 and press Enter. All we have to do here is just type 1 to prepare to install OPENSTEP and press Enter. And now it's going to ask us to insert the OPENSTEP device drivers disk into the floppy drive. So go ahead and press the right control key to release your mouse from the virtual machine, and go down here to the floppy disk icon, right click on it and click on choose disk image. And now what you want to do is change it from the install disk to the 4.2 custom driver disk. So this disk is actually something that would not ship with OPENSTEP originally. This has actually been modified to contain some drivers that will work with this virtualization software. So go ahead and just click on open and capture your mouse back in the VM and press return or enter. And it's going to come up with this list right here. So basically how this works is OPENSTEP and NeXT as well, the way that they're designed, they're going to be loading two separate drivers. The first one here that's asking us to specify is going to be for the CD-ROM. And once we select this one, the second one is going to be for the hard drive. So we want to choose basically the same driver for both of them. So go ahead and press the 7 key to view a list of additional drivers on the disk. So press 7 and press enter. Press 7 and press enter again to get to the very last, or to the very bottom of the list. And here we want to focus on number 5, which is the primary secondary dual EIDE AT-API device controller. So go ahead and press 5 and press enter, and now you just loaded the CD-ROM driver. So we want to use that exact same driver for the hard disk. So go ahead and follow that same procedure. So type 7, enter, and then 5 and press enter again. And now you have loaded both of those drivers, so all you have to do now is type number 1 and press enter to begin loading OPENSTEP. So once you do that, it's going to come up with this graphical UI here, and it's going to go ahead and basically set everything up. It's going to check that those devices are properly mounted and everything. So once you get past that screen, it's going to come up with this screen telling you what devices it found. So it's going to go ahead and find the IDE disk number 1 to type 255, and it's about 2 gigs in size, so 2047 megabytes. So all we have to do is just type number 1 to install OPENSTEP on this disk. So do that and press enter. And to make this very simple, we're just going to use the entire disk to install OPENSTEP and not go ahead and do all the different partitioning and try to install another OS. You could do that if you want to, but for the purposes of this video tutorial, we're going to go with option 1 to make it very simple. So go ahead and type number 1 and press enter, and type number 1 and press enter again to start installing OPENSTEP. And that is pretty much it. That is how you actually get the VM set up and go through the very first part of the installation process. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and let it install. It will take a few minutes, as it says, and I'm going to come back after it's finished installing to show you what we have to do next to get this thing up and running. Alright, so we are back, and the NeXT operating system has just finished installing. OPENSTEP has just finished installing on our VM. So now what it's going to ask us to do is to remove the disk from the floppy disk drive and press return. So to do that, we're going to press the right control key to get our mouse back, and go down here to the floppy drive, right click on it and click on remove disk from virtual drive right here. So do that and then capture your mouse again and press return. And that's going to go ahead and restart the computer. So once it restarts, just want to go ahead and do the same thing. Press enter to speed up the boot up process. And now it's going to go ahead and ask you to insert the custom drivers disk again, because we did choose those drivers and it needs the disk to use them. So go ahead and press the right control key again. Go down here to the floppy drive and go ahead and put your custom driver disk back in. So now that you've already put it in one time, it'll show up in this little menu right here. So we're gonna go ahead and choose that. It'll automatically mount it in, and just press the 1 key and press enter to go ahead and load the drivers from those disks, or load the drivers from that disk. And here we are on the OPENSTEP boot screen, and once it finishes this, it will come up with the next portion of the setup, which actually went pretty fast there. And so right here, one thing that you can do is get your mouse back and go up here to close out of this pop-up from VirtualBox. And so this alert here, it's asking us to insert the disk that contains the EISA bus driver. So we already have this in here. So just go, because this is on that custom driver disk, so just press OK and do the same thing for the next pop-up that'll come up. So yeah, for this one, for the EIDE AT-API device controller, go ahead and press OK on that as well. And now we come up with this summary of devices screen. So basically what this is this is where that you go in to actually specify what device drivers that you want to use for the devices that you have. So The main one that we want to focus on here is the display. All we have to do is go ahead and click on the second tab here, which has the monitor on it. And we want to just, first off, because we're not going to be able to install all those drivers at the moment, we're just going to choose the generic display adapter. So to do that, just go ahead and scroll down on this list, and you're going to look for the generic SVGA adapter version 4. So click on that and click Add, and click on Done down here. And this is really the only device that we have to really worry about right now, so don't worry about any of these other ones because we can go ahead and install them later. So go ahead and click on Save. And now we should be presented with the, so the Install Next Step screen. So at this screen, it will basically allow you to choose the components that you want to install. So you've got all these different components here. What I did in my previous install on that other VM is I installed everything but all of these secondary languages. So if you want to install these, you can, but I'm just going to go ahead and just uncheck these so you can use the little check mark on the left to uncheck them. And at the bottom here is this little graph that shows you this gray portion is going to be how much of the disk that it's going to take up, and all of this is the 2047 megabytes of the entire disk. So I'm just going to go ahead and, as I said, undo those languages, leave everything else, and press install. And yeah, so this is again going to take a little bit for it to finish up, so I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video right here, and I will come back once we are at the next portion of the installation. Alright, so we're back once again. We have finished the installation process. It says OPENSTEP has been installed successfully, and it asks us to make sure, again, that there is no disk in the floppy drive. So we're going to go ahead and just go down here once again to the floppy icon, right click on it, and click on Remove Disk from Virtual Drive. And go ahead back into the VM and click on the restart button. And once it finishes the startup, we'll be presented with the welcome screen right here. So this basically allows us to choose our keyboard layout and our language, and you can see that none of these are able to be selected because I didn't install them, but if you install those other languages, you'll have that option here. So I'm just going to go ahead with the English and with the USA keyboard layout, so we'll click on OK. And so here we are. This is NeXT, or should I say OPENSTEP 4.2. This is the interface. I'm sure if you guys have used NeXT before or have seen it in action, you've probably seen this before, but it doesn't look as great because there's no color. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. What you want to do is go ahead and go up here. We're in the file viewer right here. And you want to go to the OPENSTEP disk right here. This is the install disk, and what you want to do is go ahead and just click and drag it, and go down here to the little recycle icon, and basically that will eject the disk from the drive. So now there's no disk in the drive. So now what we want to do is go ahead and press the right control key to get our mouse back, and go down here to the virtual CD drive. Right click on it and click on choose disk image. And now what you want to do is go ahead and choose the NeXT VMware Tools ISO. Now even though this is VMware Tools, there are still drivers on here that will work with VirtualBox. So go ahead and just choose that and click on open. So once you have the NeXT Tools CD mounted in the VM, what you want to do is go ahead and click on it. So just get into the actual CD, and then what you want to do is go into the NeXT folder right here. And once you're in that folder, well, what we want to do is just focus on the patches folder right here. So go ahead and open that one, go into the 4.2 folder, and we're only going to be installing patch 4. So what you want to do is go ahead and open this folder and find the user.tar file right here. So what you want to do is go ahead and take this file and go ahead and copy it over to the me directory. So just go ahead and click and drag it and go up here to the me directory and unclick your mouse, I guess. Not stop holding the mouse button, and it'll go ahead and say copying right over here. So go ahead and go back to the me folder once it finishes copying. So once this text up here goes away, it will actually allow us to extract it. So I'm just going to go ahead and wait for it to finish copying over. So you see there, now it has ungrayed out itself. So since this is a tar file, which is an archive, we have to extract it. So to do that, just double click on it and click on unarchive down here at the bottom. So this is where things can get a little bit complicated for some people. So we have the OS 4.2 mock user patch right here, as you can see, and if we double click it, it will open up just fine. But if we try to install this, it will give us an error saying that we don't have permission to. And that's because we're not running this as root. We're not running this as a administrator. So to do that, we have to actually run it from terminal. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and quit out of this. And we're going to go into NeXT Apps right here. So go ahead and get out of the Me folder, go up to NeXT Apps, and open up Terminal. So that's right here. Go ahead and open that up. And here we are at the terminal. So the first thing that you want to do is give yourself sudo access. So type in su space hyphen. And now it's going to allow us to run all of our commands as with the sudo command, so basically as root. So first we want to change our directory to the me folder. So go ahead and type in ls to view all of the different directories, and then type in cdme. Go ahead and do that and type in ls, and you'll see the OS 4.2 mock user patch 4 right here. So now what we want to do is type in this command, and you want to make sure that you type this out exactly as I'm doing it, with everything capitalized correctly, so that it will actually work. So go ahead and type a /next admin like that, /installer.app /installer space OS 4.2 mock user patch 4.pkg. And when you do that, it will now open up the OS 4.2 mock user patch 4 as an administrator. So now all we do is click on install, and click on install again right here, and click on continue, because this is going to basically warn you that it's going to actually be running some programs. So click on continue, and there we go. So it's going to basically tell us that some of this stuff was already installed there in the log view. So you want to click on continue to overwrite those files. And now we'll actually let us install. If we did not run it from the terminal like we did, it would fail and say that you don't have permission to modify these files because we're not running it as an administrator. So because we've done that, it will allow us to overwrite all those files and put the proper drivers in the right places. So now we're finished with it. And now what we want to do is close out of the installer. So go ahead over here and click on quit. We can also quit out of terminal. And now what we want to do is specify all of the different drivers that we have. So go ahead and go back to the computer icon right here and go into NeXT admin. And what we want to do is open configure.app. So go ahead and open that up. And this is the same summary of devices configuration screen that we messed with earlier in the video. So what we want to do now is go over to the display tab and click on remove on the generic SVGA adapter, and then click on add. And now what we're looking for is the VESA driver. So just go ahead and scroll down here. Yeah, right here. So the VESA VBE 2.0 display driver. Go ahead and click on that and click on add. And now click on done down here at the bottom. And now if we go back to the screen, you'll see that the display has the VBE 2.0 driver. So go over to the network adapter now. If you want to set up network, you can. I'm not going to really be going through the configuration portion of that in this tutorial, but you'll see that it came up with a detected device, and that is this AMD PCNet32 PCI Ethernet adapter. So just go ahead and use that. So click on add. So once you have that, go ahead and click on done. And now we've got these 3 drivers specified in here. As far as I know, we don't have a driver for SCSI or audio, so unfortunately we're not going to really be able to configure those right now, but the main thing is the display, because it's going to allow us to actually get color. So we're going to go ahead and click on save down here, and now what we want to do is actually restart the computer. So go ahead and close out of this. So go over here and click on quit, and then go to the log out button right here and click on power off. So once it says it's safe to turn off the computer, go ahead and just close out of the VM, click power off, and just go ahead and start it back up again. And once we do this, you will now see right when it goes to load into the OS, we're going to have color, hopefully at least. So go ahead and press enter here, and there we go. So you see we've got the NeXT mock operating system loading up in color. So that is pretty awesome. So because that we specified that network adapter and there is no like networking setup, actually, it will actually try to boot the computer. You can see right here it's actually trying to start up with Ethernet right here. So it's going to give us this error saying no response from network configuration server. Type Ctrl-C to start up without a network connection. So just go ahead and do that. Type in Ctrl-C to just basically bypass that, because we're not really going to worry about networking right now. And there we are. So we have NeXT, or OPENSTEP I should say, working it in full color. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and just close out of this VirtualBox warning up here. And go ahead and do the same thing with the floppy disk. It does this every time it starts up for some reason. So go ahead and click eject, click OK, and you can see it's still running at a pretty low resolution. So you can actually bump this up if you want to. So to do that, just go ahead and just basically do the same thing. So go back to the computer, go into NeXT admin, go into configure.app. Go over to display and click on select right here at the bottom under display mode. And when this pops up, all you have to do is pick the desired display resolution that you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 1024 by 768 at 32-bit color. So that's right over here. That's this one. Click on OK and click on done and save. Close out of the configure and log out and power off your computer again. So you do have to restart this every time that you change the really anything in the configurator. You have to go ahead and actually restart it for the changes to take effect. And now check this out. We have a full 1024 by 768 resolution running here. So that is pretty much it. It's going to do the same thing once again with the networking, where it will ask you to press Ctrl+C to skip the networking setup. But honestly, that is pretty much it. That is how to install OPENSTEP 4.2 in VirtualBox. This is a little bit longer of a tutorial because there's a lot of stuff to set up. But I hope you guys found this helpful, and if you did, definitely be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe down below if you want to see more videos like this in the near future. And as always, guys, I just want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.